See the game more clearly with high-definition spectacle lenses from Norville Opticians.
Well, David, you must be extremely disappointed. You had such a strong foothold in the game initially.
Obviously very disappointed to have lost the game in the manner that we did, but again, you've got to credit Bordeaux who hung on in there, managed to get a couple of penalties in the end. The penalty got them field position to allow them to drop the goal, so they lost a close game last week. We've managed to win a few number of close games over the course of the last few matches, but just at the minute obviously there's a huge sense of disappointment in the dressing room at the way we finished.
Almost perfect first half for you, 19-3 up, game was going extremely well.
Oh, we played exactly as we talked about before the game. We had a strong win behind us, we used the elements, we kept the scoreboard ticking along, we played field position, and we know that at the top level the games turn on small things, and we talked about before the game looking after the ball. We turned the ball over once, they go 90 metres, score a try, which ultimately was the difference between turning around with a very comfortable win and turning around under pressure with playing into the wind. But again, huge credit to players. They dug in, they got back into a position where we took the lead with 5 minutes to go, but ultimately just 20 seconds and the game's over.
And you employed the same sort of tactics you did in winning the Challenge Cup towards the end. Didn't quite work out for you though. There's always a risk involved in holding on to the ball. It's benefited us on a number of stages throughout the season, particularly in the Challenge Cup final. Today we just missed a ruck and conceded a penalty, which is disappointing, but small margins in a game like that, and as I said, one more ruck and the game's over. And you did struggle with field position in that second half.
Second half was never going to be about field position simply because of the wind. There was a strong breeze which we benefited from in the first 40 minutes. The second half was more about retaining possession, causing them some problems. And again, we made some line breaks, we created some opportunities. But this week we didn't take 4 or 5 line breaks. We would hope to finish at least one of those off. And today it just didn't work out.
I guess the importance is the progress you made since Christmas shouldn't be forgotten in the light of this result, because it has been a very positive development.
In the same way that we haven't got too carried away when we've been winning games, we haven't been too disappointed when we've lost games. Every week we've talked about getting better, and the challenge by the end of the season was to be able to sit down and say, look, we believe we're in a better place than we were when we started 12 months ago. I think that's the case. I think there's lots of elements that we're very happy with. Obviously today would have been the icing on the cake, winning and getting ourselves into the Champions Cup, but maybe today showed that we don't yet quite have the squad that we need to compete in the Viva Premiership, to compete in Champions Cup, and to compete through what will be a very, very tough season next year. But that's what we're building towards. We're building towards competing at the top end of the Premiership. We're building towards competing in Europe, and today disappointing, but we'll bounce back and come again next year.
You have had a host of injuries to cope with as well. A lot of players have played a lot of game time this season. They're going to get a decent break in the forthcoming weeks.
That's the big challenge now, to get players away from the game, forget about it, and get back ready for the start of pre-season on July the 1st. But you've said it, the nature of the season is there are going to be injuries in every squad. What we've got to do is ensure that we've got to minimise the injuries where we can. We've also got to ensure that we're continuing to develop the depth in our squad by bringing through the young players you've seen throughout regularly this season. And if we can get that right, that will give us a depth of squad which ultimately in the next couple of years will allow us to compete right throughout the season.